Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Wendy Finch and I am the Marketing Director for TopCon Solutions Stores. We are very excited to have a large group on today's presentation, literally spanning the US. TopCon Solutions is owned by parent company TopCon Positioning Group, who designs, manufactures, and distributes precision measurement and workflow solutions for the global construction, geospatial, and agricultural markets. For those of you in the Northwest, you will know us as formerly PPI Group. And outside of the Northwest, it is important to know that your local TopCon Solution Store now offers Bluebeam products, technical support, and training classes. So that's all very exciting. As a Bluebeam partner, we have 3 technical Bluebeam certified consultants on the team and our go-to Bluebeam account manager, Charlie Smith. So there is no shortage of expertise to help maximize your software. So whether you've purchased it from somebody else or Bluebeam directly, we can help support your efforts there and guide you into a path of productivity. A couple of housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded and will be distributed to all attendees. So if you want to share that with colleagues or just revisit some of the key notes that are key topics that you're going to hear in here, you'll have access to that. If you have questions, we are going to reserve some time at the end for a Q&A session. And so on your GoToWebinar menu bar, down in the lower third, there is a questions box. You open that up and you can type in your questions, and we will do our very best to get to all the questions at the end. So today our presenter is David Campbell, who is based out of our Portland, Oregon location. However, he came to us by the way of Indiana, so he's not a stranger to the Midwest for sure. David is what I call a Bluebeam evangelist and literally travels the country working with companies and individuals, learning how to increase productivity and collaboration using Bluebeam. So welcome, David. Why don't you expand just a little bit on your bio for everybody, and then we'll dive into the presentation. And David, I'm not hearing any audio. So maybe you're muted. And we're still not hearing audio from David. I'm sure he's feverishly trying to figure this out. Unfortunately, we're not in the same room today. David,
Hello.
are you there?
Hello? Wendy?
Yes, I hear you.
There it is. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. Man, whew. Great way to start off a Friday morning. I thought I was nervous before the webinar started. Whew. All right.
Well, we didn't say you were certified in GoToWebinar, so it's okay. We need to add that to your bio.
All right. Oh, man. All right. So here I am. My name is David Campbell. I'm an application specialist here at the TopCon Solution Store out of the Northwest, beautiful Pacific, right? A little rainy on this Friday morning, but still beautiful. So a little bit about me. I am a certified Bluebeam instructor. Got my certification a few years ago. I'd say probably about 2.5, 3 years ago. During that time, I've been really trying to push the boundaries, kind of limitations of Bluebeam Revu, working with several Bluebeam user groups like the C-Bug, the local Portland bug here, to pick up some of these different workflows, see what they're using it, how they're using it, to really kind of, I guess, integrate these into my training sessions, using custom training sessions to learn as much as I can about these different workflows while also kind of getting those gears going in the brain, right, to figure out some of these better processes that we might be able to use and review. So I'm actually not going to do too much in a PowerPoint today, just to let you know. I am going to pretty much go right into review. All right. So my plans, kind of goals for today, is to really help anyone working in this civil kind of workflow be a little more productive. I just want to show you guys a few tips and tricks here on things that I've seen. Now, I'm going to go a little bit into the design review kind of workflow. I'm actually going to go a little bit into takeoff and estimating as well. All right, but I will be focusing on the 2018 interface. And for those of you who don't know, Bluebeam 2019 is going to be released in the later part of October. So keep an eye out for that release too. All right, so here we go. I got a nice little civil set here, right? I got some site symbols and some abbreviations. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and switch from my thumbnails to my tool chest, okay? So I've made a few different tool sets here before the webinar, just to give an idea of how this is gonna work and how easy this is to really get these tools and to create these, and then I would say to standardize a lot of this information. So the first part of anything, before I get really deep into this, is going to go up. I'm going to go ahead and get into make sure I'm in my civil review profile. So that's one big thing I did want to mention today. If I switch over to, let's say, my review advanced profile, right? You're going to notice that my tool sets change. My interface looks a whole lot different. So I have a panel here on my right side as well. I have a lot of my tabs over here on the right side as well as on the left side here, okay? So I'm gonna switch back over into that civil review profile. So starting out, part of any design review process is gonna be doing what's called like redlining, essentially, right? We're going through, we're checking these drawings to make sure that everything is up to, one, our design standards, and then two, making sure that things are up to code, things are drawn correctly, typical things. So Bluebeam for that purpose is going to be amazing. If I start off with, let's say, one of my markup tools, and let's say that I notice, oh man, come on. It froze up on me a little bit here. There we go. All right. There we go. So let's just say I want labels on these contour lines. This is something where I can go ahead, just add a quick, call out. Oop, if I can spell this morning. All right. So you're going to see that I can place any note on here very quickly, right? And then again, it's going to be trackable here in my markups list. So I would say one big thing about this. So let me get back into this subject, find this one again. There we go. So you're going to see I have a lot of comments in here, a bunch of rectangles, stuff like that. One of the biggest things that we have an issue with when we're doing design review is really trying to find the comments that are really have to deal with what we do. They're pertinent to us. So one thing that I'm going to go ahead and show you guys, or kind of tip I'm going to throw out there, is to start making it easy for yourself and others to find these comments. So maybe I want to make this is going to be called an annotation correction, right? So this is going to be an annotation. Here we go. Now it's an annotation, okay? Or if I want to change it to maybe something like labeling, okay? Notice it's tracking that here in my subject. Now, this markups list is a fantastic feature. I'm going to use some of these other tools here later, but what I really want to get into also is going to be my status. Turn my statuses on here. Okay. So after I've made this comment, there's a couple different things that we can start doing with this. Now, this is in any type of design review workflow you want to go into, whether you are collaborating in the cloud through Bluebeam Studio, or you're going to be sharing this document, emailing it, or even just exporting and importing your markups, okay? So with this status, now I'm sure some of you have played with this before, you'll notice that if I double click, it's going to give me a general accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, that kind of stuff. So, excuse me, this is where I can go ahead and start setting up, okay, yeah, this needs to be changed. Or this is where I can go into my statuses here and create new statuses. So for me in this process, I'm going to go with a new model of design review. And this is where I'm going to start building them out. Needs review, or you know what? Let's do needs design change. Let's do that one. Something like that. I'll add another one. And we'll just say it's been changed. Actually, let's go change reflected just so I can see them a little bit better. Okay, good. Okay. And you'll see the fun part about this one is the fact that I can set a default status. So if I say, you know what, I want this to say it's going to need a design change as soon as I place it. What's great about that is the fact that any markup that I place moving forward from there, if I say markup and let's go with Cloud Plus, and maybe I want to know what type of tree. Let's find one of those trees in here somewhere. Oh, there's one. So let's go. What kind of trees are these? Okay. So if I make a comment, notice, now that's an RFI obviously, but notice that as that comment there posts up, it automatically applies itself with that needs design change. Now, I actually did not check mark something, so I'm going to go back in here and show you guys this real quick. But you notice here how it says check mark with the color and it says green. If I go back up to needs design change, this is red, okay? So every one of my comments here, so let's see, I go with tools, markup, call out. So I'll just place another comment, okay? It automatically needs that design change. When I change this actual status to say change reflected, notice it then changes to green. Okay, this is great for, I would say, any designers actually going in and for whoever is doing the review process themselves, because this is going to let you know, okay, this has been changed, this has been changed. From there, I'm going to go ahead and either filter or sort based off of that status to make sure that I've actually got all of the changes that needed to be made in the design, or that the designer actually made all of the changes that I asked for. Kind of going through that whole redlining process. Okay, so there's that design review process. Makes it very easy, kind of runs into that workflow very, very beautifully, right? So the other one that I'm going to look at here is making some of your other review processes easier with this as well. So let me go back into this first page. So Bluebeam Revu has this awesome tool called a snapshot. I don't know how many of you guys have used this before, but it is great and it saves us a lot of time. If I'm actually, let's say, going to go ahead and try to mark up, maybe we need a few more benches. So I'm going to go ahead, draw this around my bench, and say Control V or paste. Now that wasn't what I wanted, so we're going to try that one again. All right, there we go. Grab that. Control V. There we go. There it is. Oop, stretched it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so there's my bench. Now I'm going to drag it out a little bit further this time too. I want to get that left arm in there. All right. So there's my bench. Now with this bench, maybe I want to actually make it stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to go with change colors, make the source color, let's go black. We'll change that to red. Okay. Now I can go ahead, right click, save that right into my tool chest. I'm probably going to put that in just with landscaping, but I can put that really wherever I want. I'm going to put it in with my landscaping tools, and there it is. Okay. So now when I want to make that markup, I just click from my tool chest, and I can go ahead and place those around my site. So you'll notice this one's rather small, right? I'm like, well, maybe that's fine. I mean, maybe we do need it a little bit bigger, okay? In that sense, I can go ahead and set a scale for my tool set. Let's go with, a 1/4 inch equals a foot. No, I'm going to calibrate. There's my scale down there. So we're going to go find my scale down here. And let's say I go shift, and that's 10 feet. Okay. So now it's quite a bit larger. Okay. So now that I've scaled that, I can set it down and then go ahead and place these on my drawing as needed. All right. Now let me go back. Ooh, that planting area or the stormwater planting area. So the other one, I will go back into these trees. I have so many features to talk to you guys about today. It's pretty exciting. But let's say that we're trying to grab this planting area, or let's do this planting area for turf or meadow. So I know this is most likely going to be either a area measurement or some type of volume measurement. So in that case, what I can do is go into Bluebeam Revu's measurement tools, okay? Now, of course, you're gonna need to calibrate any drawing before you go taking the measurements, just like I did before. Very simple process. But I can go ahead, grab this volume. Let's say I drag it around here. Now I'm going to get into the properties of this. This is going to be turf or meadow, okay? So with that, I can start placing, if I wanted to place a fill color in there. You know what? I don't think I want to do a fill color. I think what I will do is actually place a hatch pattern in there. Now, what I'm doing here, when I go to hatch, you'll see that you can place a hatch pattern in any one of these. So this would actually work for that planting area there if I just adjusted the scale down quite a bit. But if I'm going to go with this, the symbols here, addition symbols, I'm going to look for that here. If I don't see it, that's where I can go manage. In this manage tool, that's where I can go ahead and add or create my own hatch patterns. So let's say I'm going to create a new hatch pattern, and I'm going to call this planting area. Turf or meadow. I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, we're going to create this. Draw. Okay, then okay. And there it is. Check that out. Now, I don't like how that caption's over there, so I'm going to turn that off. So now that I've made it, right click, add to tool chest, and landscaping. There it is. So I can go over to that next set here, maybe look for that. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and calibrate this drawing here. Let's just go with 20 feet. And we're going to make sure we store that scale in this page. Now, you'll notice a lot of times when you put your tools into your tool chest, what you'll see is that it'll look exactly the same as the first time you made it. And that's okay sometimes, but a lot of times we're gonna need a whole new measurement for this, right? So this is where I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna double click on that symbol. So I'm gonna see it reset there to its original kind of properties, but you'll see it does keep the same subject and the label, all of the properties that you gave it. It just doesn't, it allows you to draw a whole new one. Excuse me, I didn't grab a drink of coffee this morning. Still bright and early. Need some Java in my life. So I'm gonna run up over here, find the ending of this. All right, and let's say I'm gonna go ahead. I wonder, actually, if I shouldn't use dynamic fill on something like this. So I can hand draw this all out, tracing this entire length all the way down, and yes, it will give me a fantastic volume measurement. Or I could say, you know, I really would just like to dump a paint bucket in here and use that to grab this area measurement or this volume measurement. So in that case, I'm going to use Bluebeam's dynamic fill. And here I can go ahead and grab my volume measurement. I'm going to add my boundary. I'm going to add one here. And then I'm going to come down here and add one here as well, just in case. And then I'm going to dump my paint bucket in here. So you're going to see that it will go out and kind of fill out all of these other areas. Now I got to be careful not to, you know, run into some of my other portions here. But it's nice how it recognizes those lines for me, right? And as I start running it across here, it's going to give me that nice measurement. I have a gyro ball mouse this morning, so I'm not trying to be not trying to go all over the place, still learning this thing a little bit. All right, here we go. So almost through it. Missed a little portion there. And if you hold it down, you'll see it just keeps going and going. It does fill it right in for us. I could pop into those other areas. I think the contour lines is actually what's stopping it here. It's recognizing those contour lines there. There we go. And then we'll take it down to the end here. Oh, Control Z right there. All right. And we're off. All right. So now I'll hit apply. And there's my nice volume measurement. Now I'll go down. I can find this volume measurement here, get in my markups list, bring up my volume. So it's reading 171 cubic yards for me. So if I go back into my properties, let's say, oh, there we go. Bring it back there. Let's edit what caption we're showing. Maybe we don't need the label, we just want the volume. And then let me get into my depth for this. Okay. So my depth is set right now for 6 inches. If I know I'm going to need like a full foot of turf there, I can go ahead and adjust that measurement and it will reflect automatically for me. Okay, so it's saying I have 342 cubic yards. Now, a really nice thing about this as well is the fact that when you guys are doing this, you can actually change right here. It says independent units, and this is in the measurements tab. This gives you the capability to specify if you want cubic yards, cubic feet, millimeters, centimeters, all that kind of stuff, cubic inches, and also your area units, whether you do want square yards or square meters, square inches, that kind of stuff. Okay, so there we have that beautiful measurement, right? Now, at this point, I know some of you are wondering, so I'm just going to go ahead and answer your question. Yes, you can build out estimating and do takeoffs right here within Bluebeam Revu. We do have the capability to build our own custom columns here. And with these custom columns, we have 6 different types. We have a choice column, we have a date, a formula, number, text, and check mark. So typically what I'll see is that you would create a choice column to go ahead and give you your materials and assign your numeric values or the cost or labor cost, unit cost, what have you, and then build it into a formula here. And then you can go ahead and just export out to Excel very easily. Okay, and I'll go into that one here again in a little bit deeper here in a couple minutes. So there we have the capability to do, of course, the volume measurements, area measurements. Let's say you also wanted to get, let's close out of this one. Let's say I also want to go ahead and make sure, is this a ramp? I'm not sure. No, it's planting area. That's a planting area. I want to look for a ramp of some type. If we can find a ramp on here, Bluebeam also has the capability to go ahead and take length measurements, right? So let's say, we'll just take a length measurement here. So I'll come up here to my toolbar, I'll grab my length measurement. You're gonna see it's gonna snap right there for us. And again, if this is a nice little tip here as well, if you hold down Shift, it's gonna keep your line exactly straight. If you let go of it, most of the time with Bluebeam, it's actually going to try to snap right to where you're pointing it at. Okay, it's going to snap to that part of the PDF. So what I really like about the length measurements, I do need to get rid of that and get rid of that subject, and let's just call this code check. All right, so well, I can just call it ADA. Or yeah, that's fine. We can leave it there. If we know that this code is 1/12, here's where I can go ahead and say, you know what, this pitch is going to be a 1/12. And then I can go ahead and update that to check. Okay, so here I can go ahead and label it, but I can build these pitches, these slopes in. Let's go with maybe a grade. You're going to see that I can actually put in the percentage of my grade. I can actually pull a degree out and read the degrees of this. Okay, so we can go ahead, make specifications, or actually say this needs to be 1/12, or we can read it and tell it has this type of slope or this type of pitch. Okay, you're going to have that capability with the length measurements. You're also going to have a rise or drop function with a poly length measurement. Okay. So here we go with the poly length. If I scroll down, this is where I'd get my rise and drop. So if I know that over the course of this line here, it drops, let's say 1 foot 6 inches, I can place that in, and maybe I need to move this one down a little bit. There we go. This is going to be, okay, so there it's going to go ahead, adjust my overall, and give me the rise and drop for this line. Now, one more thing before I move up back to that cover page there real quick. I did want to talk about, let's find it here. Bluebeam has awesome capabilities if you guys are trying to, say, polyline, there we go. If you're trying to mark up on these drawings, let's say that I have a sanitary sewer line coming out of my building, and I noticed that either it needs to run a different direction, or let's say we did have it drawn incorrectly in the drawing. what we can do, maybe I want to go ahead and just, and you see I'm using a polyline. The nice thing about a polyline is that it has segments. And with the poly length tool, also, the polyline does not take measurements, the poly length does. The poly length is great, especially as I was saying for piping, because I can break off individual segments and get the measurements of every segment of pipe that I need. On something like this one though, with the polyline, I really like this one because we can go ahead and adjust our line style. So let's say I do have, a property line. I can actually mark out the property line and then take a measurement to make sure my offsets are correct. Or, as I'm going to show you here, let's say I want to build let's just do water. Okay, I'm going to add this and I'm going to call it sanitary. So this is my line style editor or creator. This is where I can go to create my own different line types. So I'm going to start off with a dash, go with a space, text, space. For my text, SS, font size, let's change it to something we can read. There we go. Have it scale with the line thickness and say OK. Now, again, I can go ahead and change this. Let's say I want it. All right, so this is where I can go ahead and draw that line out to say, okay, no, we need to run it here. And you know what? Maybe I need to go ahead and add a clean out or something like that in there. Hey, that's where I can go ahead, maybe grab a text box or a call out. Sorry, markup, call out. Okay, and the nice thing about that is too, is if you ever have anyone out in the field, and let's say there's a note like this where we need to add this clean out, and we have someone going to walk the site and say, hey, I really wonder if they have added that yet. I seen they had the pipe in yesterday. I'm pretty sure they were going to go ahead and do that. Or, just trying to get an idea of where they're at with it. We can always go ahead and add pictures. So let me find that capture. There it is. From camera or from file. So again, as your person is out walking the site, if they notice certain things like this add clean out, they needed to add a clean out here to be up to code, or where they're tracking the progress of it, or they see any issues in general on the site, you can go ahead, place that comment, and then put a picture right to it. Now I don't have a clean out on my pictures here, but I will go ahead. There we go. That's a good one. That's what I want to be doing today anyways. It's Friday, right? No. So there we have the capability to add pictures to our markups as well. Okay, really bringing that kind of back home. Now let me think. Yes. Let me go back to this cover sheet here. So I've shown you guys a couple different ways of either how to use some of the features of really what you have in your PDF, right? Reusing the symbols that's in your PDF. That's a big one because of course we don't want to recreate all that work. Now, of course, that sanitary sewer one, I just thought about that. I need to go ahead and add that to my tool set, right? So make sure I grab that, right click, add to my tool chest, and that one I'll put right there. Cool. I'm going to navigate right back to my cover page here. All right. So again, back to kind of talking about how we can utilize some of these symbols. So I see bike racks, trash recycling containers, my benches, the bike path pole lights, all this stuff, and my trees. Sometimes it's a good idea to go ahead and get a count of these items, right? Which Bluebeam Revu is going to have some great tools in terms of like a count tool for us to use. It is kind of a manual process. You would go through each symbol that you see and click on it. I mean, that is going to give you a great count. Of course, excuse me, from there, you can go ahead, build in value to that or put your numeric value into it. And then, of course, build a formula out and export to Excel. But I know a lot of you are asking, Dave, there's got to be a faster way, right? Yes, there is. Yeah. So the search tool. You have visual search capabilities. Now, let's say I want to go ahead and search my whole document. Now, this one might actually take a little while. So let me get into just one of these sheets here that's going to have a few of these on it for us. Probably going to be sheet 5. All right, there's some new trees there. There's one of those floodlights. You know what? Let's do it on this one. And I'll search for maybe the trash receptacles. So I'm going to say we're going to stay on this page here. I'm going to adjust my sensitivity up a little bit. You'll notice that playing with your sensitivity does give you different results. If you're too sensitive, it's just not going to give you anything. If you're not sensitive enough, you get too much. Okay, so it's kind of good to adjust it or kind of tweak that as you're going through making these searches. So here we go. Oh, I need to make that one a little bit bigger. All right, so just like that. Now I can go ahead and refine these colors if I wanted to get that background out of it, but I don't think it's really gonna, it's not gonna do too much for to us to impair it there. You'll notice it's down here kind of counting on the bottom left. It'll give us the results or how many it's finding more towards when it gets to about 95 to 98%. Oh, it found just the one. So just because it did that, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys here. I wanted to double check. It might be right, actually. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what I would do on that. So typically what you want to do when it does find these elements, you want to go ahead, check mark it, and then you want to find apply count measurement to checked. So this is where I can go ahead and put out my count measurements. Now, for me, I would actually go through, build a count measurement for this, probably using a snapshot or some kind of symbol that I would use to reflect these. And that's where you can use the subject and your labels to track it as a recycling and trash receptacle. You can put in the numeric value if you're trying to get an estimate for this site, anything like that, or just trying to double check code and make sure you actually have enough receptacles for this site. We can do that with lights, pretty much any symbol that you see on the PDF. Now, a big note on that is your PDFs do need to be vectorized, okay? So either they are run through the Bluebeam printer driver, or if you do get a scan in, anything like that, go ahead and run up to, if you have the extreme version, okay, I'm gonna note that one, but go ahead and run up to the OCR, or the optimal character recognition, and run that through and then try doing the search. Okay, you'd probably have really good results, decent to really good results with that. All right. Try to think of anything else. Oh, one more thing I did also want to talk about. So this is something I've been excited to kind of work with and be a part of, is really getting into some of these profiles. Let me actually open up another drawing here real quick. I know we're running low on time, but let's go with this one here. Okay. Now I will always try to get rid of some of those viewports. So one of the big things, and this one might not be what I want, is that I've recognized that we can play with the volumes of, I was trying to get a really good profile, like a trenching cut is what I was trying to find. Anyways, if you can find a trench to pull from, any type of excavation, things like that, what I like doing, and especially with Revu, is that you'll notice you have a separate vertical scale. So you can calibrate your X and Y. So I'll find a trench here in my 2D, and I'll go ahead and, let's say, take my volume measurements down the course or the length of my trench. Now I know that at the bottom of this trench, it's gonna be, let's say, 4 feet or 6 feet wide. So I can go ahead and make my volume measurement reflect that 4 or 6 feet wide. Now, I also understand that as you come to the top of that trench, it is going to, let's say, V out a little bit, right? This is where I would get into one of my elevations or profiles and actually create another volume tool that essentially covers that V or that widening out at the top. And then I'm going to have it actually push back. So my depth here for my volume command, this is good as far as going straight up and down, probably about, let's say 3 feet, right? 3-4 feet, maybe 5. But there's an additional foot or 2 right on top that needs that kind of extra volume. So that's where I'm going to go into that profile again, make that V, but this time my depth is actually going to push back. So for my volume command here, I'm actually going up and down. But for my profile view, what I would do is my depth would actually be, let's say, a 20-foot length. If this trench runs, 60, 80, 122 feet, what have you. I'm going to run that depth for that volume back, let's say, increments. And then you can go ahead and save, let's say, your material. So if this is going to be any type of pea gravel, or it's going to be permeable surface, if you needed to take those measurements, or impermeable surface, anything like that, we can make those tools and then save them into our tool chest, again, for use later, but also for building these reports that we're going to get from our markups list with that summary. Okay, so this is all just builds into this nice workflow. I know I threw a lot of things kind of at you guys there quickly, but we're right at the quarter of the hour. Did you guys have any questions for me?
I haven't seen anything come in yet, David, but now would be a good time for the folks on the webinar to go ahead and ask any questions, whether it's about something you presented or maybe something that you didn't cover. Go ahead and ask those questions and put them in the questions box.
Okay.
Oh, and here they come.
All right.
Okay. Ask and you shall receive. So Sarah asks, is it possible to build, oops, it's moving so fast, it's jumping around. Is it possible to build custom columns that can be updated by session attendees other than the original commenter? Example, using separate checkbox or drop-down menu.
So it's possible, but what I would do is integrate those into your profile. You could save those to your profiles for your different reviews that you're going to push up. So as long as you save those custom columns to your profile, and that profile or those custom columns are saved to that document, when you go to push that document up, they would have those. So I would essentially start either a couple different sessions, or you could actually start, well, the problem is you can't really turn columns on and off during a session. So I would actually have to have, I would say, a couple different profiles and then start a couple different sessions for those.
Okay. Jorge asks, which or how would you use this tool on a curved area?
Oh, curved areas are fantastic. So what you'll see is that any of your measurement tools, you have the capability to either convert them to arcs if they're not straight lines. So you can actually arc it out and kind of trace it. Now that takes a lot of time. So typically what I like to do is try to find if you can use a vectorized PDF. If you don't, then if you don't have one, then I would actually utilize still dynamic fill, but try to make your boundary areas. Okay, so in something like this one here, I would just go ahead and kind of dump my paint, and then you can choose here. So I didn't show this one too much, but you can choose specific tools here. So if I know this is going to be that planting tool, I can go ahead, use that, and kind of go through these. And as you hold it down, you'll notice, oh, there it goes, since I need a boundary right there. But you'll notice that that paint tool is going to actually just fill in for you. So just like that, and it follows that curve around, okay? Any other questions?
Oh, yes, sorry.
Oh, you're all good.
I was reading. I'm just, there's so many. I want to pre-read them so I don't mispronounce words. So Karen asks, can lines be added with different line types and colors? And what she means by that is dashed or dash dot, etc., not just continuous.
Yes, ma'am. You can do anything like that. All you need to do, you can either build your custom line styles either through the markups or the measurements. And when you get into their properties, this is where you can get into your line styles, choose that line, and then save it to your tool chest. So if I use this one here, it's going to give me the dashed line. If I add this to my tool chest, it keeps those properties. And then I would simply grab another one, give it a different line style, save that one up. And you can make as many colors as you want, or as I've seen some people do, you can actually set up your tool sets to coordinate with by color. So you assign every tool in that tool set a specific color. And that's going to help you also later in your review process, go down and then you can just filter by color or filter by that subject if you know it's landscaping, and then filter by a specific color.
Okay. And then David asks, can these comments apply to a collaborative studio session?
Yes, sir, they can. Yes. So one of the big things I really love about this program is the fact that you can standardize or share this information with anyone. Studio sessions are going to be a big portion of that, also with projects. Typically what I like to do is I like to grab my profile and I actually like to attach it. So if I can find my, let's go with let's say I want to put my landscaping. Actually, it's not my profile. Let me find my profile here. Okay, what I would typically do is grab that profile and put it right onto the document itself as a file attachment. Anyone would be able to grab that and then just double click to open it. And then automatically, all of the tool sets, as long as when you go to export your profile, so when I go review, profiles, manage profiles, as long as I'm clicking include dependencies, so right there, as long as I'm setting that, it's going to take the well, let's say the tool sets, your markups, the custom columns, things like that with it. It's going to take that information so that when the next person does open it and they bring it in, they would have all of those custom columns that you made, the tool sets, things like that. I do like doing it in a project a little bit more, but the studio session, what I typically do is just insert a page before I load it up and call it like a configuration document. And then everyone can grab those. And then what you're noticing from there is if you push up a tool set with subjects, labels, colors, things like that, it's going to make your review later. So as you're going through reviewing the comments that were made in this session, it's going to make it easier to find those specific comments.
Okay. Can DWG blocks be imported?
Oh, so what I typically see there is that you could actually just bring it, I would print it from CAD into a PDF and then just snapshot it. So if you just grab a bunch of symbols from a CAD plan and you can even just drag it into the Bluebeam stapler, it'll automatically print a PDF for you and then just go through edit, snapshot, and then grab all of those blocks and put them into a tool set.
Okay. Is there a recommendation for a ruggedized tablet to be used with the program, like a Panasonic Toughbook or something like that?
Well, as far as anything like that, I'm a little biased here because I do have a Surface Pro. I love the Surface Pro using Bluebeam Revu. Just because it can be a full, like kind of, I don't want to say laptop, but it's a tablet that I can use. I can go through. I have the full version of Revu. The Toughbooks are great. The Dell, gosh, I can't remember what those were. The workbooks, I think it was. Those were really worked really well. But if I'm honest, it's the Surface Pro. You'll see the iPad being used as well. What you'll notice with the iPad is that it's a $10 app, and essentially it's not going to have the full features of Bluebeam Revu. But I will tell you the Surface Pro does open up drawings very nice. It navigates around them. I do have 3D PDFs that I typically use on this, and it runs around those nicely as well. So I can have multiple programs running at the same time while I'm doing my review or my walks.
Okay, good to know. On your volume calculation, how do you calculate a volume with different elevations and thicknesses?
So if I'm calculating at different elevations with like different elevations and thicknesses, I'm actually going to build multiple volume tools. Well, not multiple volume tools themselves, but multiple volume measurements. And then what you'll see is as you go through placing those volumes, it's going to actually combine them together. So if I just grab these volume measurements here, there we go. If I go over to volume, you'll notice it's going to total those for me. There we go. Okay, so that's the nice thing with those is even if you're building those multiple measurements, as long as that subject is the same or the label's the same, it will group them together and give you that total. Now, I will say this though, if you're ever taking a volume measurement around an existing slab, or let's say, you know what, you do have a different elevation like in the middle part of your volume, this is where I could go ahead and say, you know, I'm going to use a cutout, polygon or ellipse. And let's say it's just miraculously going to be perfectly rectangular, right? So it's perfectly rectangular there. See that I cut all of that cubic feet or cubic yardage out of that volume measurement. Now I can go back in and say, you know what? No, I want another volume here. Now let me hold down my shift key and grab some of that text, drag that out of there. But I want this volume measurement here to actually be at a bigger depth, or maybe let's say lower. So I could say this is going to be 6 inches. So there it is. And then here's my overall. So that's how you can build multiple into one if you wanted to as well. So there's two ways, multiple ways to do it.
Okay. What's your recommendation for subcontractors using STD CAD or Extreme? Are they much different?
Oh, standard CAD or extreme. So really what, it depends. The people I see using Extreme most, it really depends on your workflow. Extreme is going to give you the capability to batch hyperlink all of your drawings. So if you're getting PDFs and you want to make them easier to navigate in the field, hyperlinking, digital dashboards, for which are form fields, that's going to be Extreme. OCR, things like that, getting the documents ready for everyone. That's the biggest thing. The CAD, I don't recommend for anybody that's not drafting. If you are drafting and pushing drawings out, then yes, I definitely want you to have CAD because there are features that come with the CAD version, like printing from Revit. You can transition your rooms into spaces and subtract the openings automatically. All of your metadata from every element that you modeled in actually comes into Bluebeam. It's just different things like that. Typically, if you're just viewing these drawings, making your markups, doing walks, things like that, the standard version is amazing. But it's when you need that, the batch linking, the OCR, let's say batch sign and seal, a batch compare and overlay, things like that, where, or form fields. That's another one where the extreme version is going to come into play.
Okay, so Karen's back and she's not yet used the program, but she's curious, can blocks be rotated and scaled and can lines be stretched?
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
So any markup on here, you see a little blue dot right above here. This is where we can actually rotate any markup you place. All of your markups can be scaled based off of their tool chest here. So you can actually set a scale off of your tool chest, or you actually scale the drawing itself when you go into measure and calibrate. And then if I'm going, I'm not a little overboard here, but you can go into the measurements tab and use viewports to specify separate scales also within your drawing. So really there's multiple ways to scale these.
Okay.
And then yeah, your line types, you really just You can grab them out and stretch them. For a polyline, you can always add more, which this one's not a polyline, but you can add more control points to it and kind of keep manipulating it as it goes. Okay.
All right. Can Bluebeam be integrated with Bentley project-wise?
Ooh, so that's a good question. I'm thinking that it's a yes if Bentley ProjectWise uses PDFs. If you have any type of search feature there, anything like that, yes. Bluebeam Revu is really going to cater to that, well, either your design review process, your takeoff and estimating kind of workflow, or communicating design changes or RFIs, anything like that within the PDFs themselves. But
Okay.
I would say printing the documents should be just fine, and putting them up there should be fine too.
Okay. So Karen's asking for some previously recorded webinars and tutorials regarding telecommunications field mapping applications. Maybe we'll take that one offline and have a team member reach out and offer what we have in that area, Karen, and send that information to you in an email. And David asks, any advice for speeding up the display of drawings and high resolution background imagery?
Yes. So one thing, well, a couple different things that you can do. When you get those big sized drawings, there's a few things we can start either reducing the file size here. Reduce file size in Bluebeam is nice because it does let you go ahead and get into the document itself to adjust what you're compressing or what you're kind of either, I would say, getting rid of, or just as I said, making smaller, compressing it. So this is one way to do that. Now, this is the actual second step I would go through typically. But again, this is where you can go through converting these into, let's say, JPEGs, or if you want to convert it into a PNG, anything like that, adjusting your depth. Now, one of the first things that I typically do is go into the preferences. So review preferences, and I'll go under the advanced settings here. I like running with my rendering engine on advanced, and then I like the rendering mode to be wait for completion. So what it's doing is kind of waiting a couple seconds until after I'm done moving, and it's kind of rendering there for me. But also the advanced engine here kind of keeps it rendering in the background, I want to say, for me. It's ready to go. It's with my surface, I don't have too many problems like running around this document. It's pretty quick. Now this is a smaller size, but it's pretty quick loading and reloading for me. The other thing that I would say is if you're using Bluebeam Revu and you have a lot of other people utilizing Revu with you, Bluebeam Sets is a great way to really cut down on file size. So a Bluebeam set, the only drawback with it, well, there are two of them. One is that it is a Bluebeam file type only. The other one is that the iPad cannot use a construction set, a set file. You could export what's called a drawing log to them, and then they could use it from there. But these sets, I tell you what, they're so amazing. They're fast. The file size, I think I have a 50-page sheet set is 27 kilobytes. It goes from a 17,000 kilobyte file. When I change it over to a set, it goes to 27. The nice things about sets also is that they're categorized by their AI tags. So essentially their identifiers on any of the sheets, the sheet names. It'll break those down. It'll actually, you can hyperlink between it. You can set up a parent-child relationship, so you can export certain drawings out of that set, and it keeps a relationship with the original set. So as you update it, things like that, the other sets that you have exported will also update. It's a fantastic tool. Mine is not activated. I will go into show and then find sets right here. And another drawback, I guess, is somewhat that you have to, you saw that was a little fast, but it's 27 kilobytes there. Is that it does run through almost like a thumbnails tab, where you click on this, and then essentially you'll see that'll open up your sheets. And then again, this is how it tracks revisions being in a set. Okay, they're actually, documents are stacked right on top of each other. I love those things, cannot get enough of them. But again, that's really big if you're collaborating with other people that are utilizing Review.
Okay. I say the same thing about Skittles. Uh, okay, so we're just at the top, or just past the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap up. I have two quick questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you use images like aerial photos, JPEGs, TIFFs, etc., as
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds?
Yes.
Okay, that was simple. One more thing is you talked a lot about setting up tool sets and customizing. Is that
Mm-hmm.
something you and or your team helps with? And could you also put up the contact information? So for those of folks that are still in the webinar, if they want to reach out to us, they have our information.
Yes, and the answer to your question is yes. We do offer that service. So we have 3 Bluebeam certified consultants here, and typically we will work with clients to help build tool sets, profiles, custom columns, everything like that to really get their interface the way that they want it. And then the nice thing about Bluebeam Revu is that they give us a fully customizable I want to say configurator for your deployments of pushing out Review. So let's say you are implementing it and you want to make a company-wide change. Either when you install Bluebeam Revu, all of these changes go out with it, or we can have you export it and essentially everyone can find that file and just double click or import it in and get all those nice tool sets.
Okay. Well, as always, David, it's been fast and furious. And I got a lot of comments here saying how valuable this webinar was for a
Thank
lot
you.
of
Awesome.
people. So we appreciate your time. And again, our contact information is there. We'll be following up with everybody with the recorded version so you can go back and review things if that's what you'd like to do or share it. And I think that pretty much wraps things up, and we're going to go ahead and sign off. Again, thanks, David, for your time and
Yeah.
your wealth of knowledge, and we'll see everybody on the next webinar.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thanks. Bye-bye.